Straight ahead on this special edition of OC News, she was born with a rare condition that required 9 surgeries to her face. We'll talk to a woman who is redefining the standards of beauty.
I was kind of agreeing with the kids, like, yeah, you should ask me that. You should me call these bad names because I am ugly.
We dive into the issue of solving the homelessness problem. It's not just as simple as these folks finding a job. Many work but still cannot afford a permanent home.
I've adjusted quite well, to be honest with you. And nobody thinks I'm homeless when they see me.
And California has become the state with the most craft beer breweries. What's the attraction? And what goes into a great mug of brew? These stories and much more. OC News starts right now. Welcome to this special edition of OC News. I'm Rachel Andrews. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton. In this episode, we dive deeper into a few issues that are of particular interest to our campus and local community. We start with an interesting story that redefines the standards of beauty. Vanya?
What is beauty? For most of us, it's defined in the magazines we read and the social media posts we watch. But this next story just might change your mind. In a world full of expectations, looking different is a challenge. This woman took on that challenge and changed the game.
I never really noticed that I was different. People would stop me on the streets and ask me, what happened to your face? Are you okay? So I started feeling bad and feeling pity because why I was born like that. I wished I didn't, have a face like I do. I started comparing myself to the other little girls and I was kind of agreeing with the kids, like, yeah, you should ask me that. You should me call these bad names because I am ugly. I was born with a condition called CMN. That is basically a birthmark. I was born with a giant birthmark covering 40% of my face in scalp, and I also have this satellized moles all over my body.
But this self-love came at the end of a very long road.
So I started creating this internal, conversation, and next time when a kid said something, I would answer back because until then I would not speak out. So when I started speaking out and protecting myself, like I was born like that. It was not a choice, it's just a condition and it's not contagious. I'm fine, I'm healthy, so just stop.
Her mother says it was not an easy decision to make, but she remembers thinking she would do everything she could for her to look more like the other children and not suffer.
So from the age of 9 months old to 13 years old, I had 9 surgeries to remove the birthmark, the facial birthmark, right? Any way would be tough. If I had a giant, dark, hairy, and thick, dark birthmark, would be hard to face the world, to walk around and having people ask, what happened to her face? What is this? And having scars is hard as it is to have a birthmark, except that I went through surgeries. That was an extra stress and work to do.
After attending a convention, Natalia met others that looked like her for the first time. She noticed that low self-esteem was a recurring issue and realized if she could put herself out there and share her story, many others would feel comfortable in their own skin too.
I would never think that I would have that space, that safe space to speak out, because it is a big time for me now where if you think about it, back when I was 15 or I was 10, 5, my condition, being the way I look, was considered something not really pretty, not correct, was abnormal, right? Spreading the word saying it's okay to be different. So it's kind of like I'm part of a revolution. That's how I feel, you know, a change of patterns. Now you see more curvy and people with skin conditions, all colors, on magazines, on the news, on hopefully on the movies too, you know, on TV, where the next generation will see, okay, that's okay to have a birthmark and scars and be in the movies and don't be the bad guy, you know?
For OC News, I'm Vanya Patino.
That was definitely super inspiring, Vanya. Do you happen to know where she got the strength to put herself out there?
Yeah, so we talked about that and she said it was her mom. So her dad left them when she was about a year old. So her mom had to get a job, had to figure out all the doctor appointments, the surgeries, to pay for these surgeries, you know. So she really had to hold it all together and raise her by herself. So she finds a lot of her strength from her mom.
I mean, it's amazing that there's such a great experience that came out of all these hardships.
Yeah, definitely. She's using her mom as a role model to help millions of people.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanya. Now let's turn to the issue of homelessness. Tanya?
When we think of homelessness, we think of people living on the streets. I got the opportunity to spend the day with Lynn, someone who identifies as homeless but lives out of her car.
I've adjusted quite well, to be honest with you. And nobody thinks I'm homeless when they see me.
Lynn is currently living out of her car. The San Diego Annual Report on Homelessness reported 8,000 people sleeping on the streets on any given night. 13% of them sleep in their car. Lynn is one of them.
I ended up homeless because I have PTSD, and that was due to domestic violence. And I had a breakdown, and I drove myself to drink. I reached a bottomless pit. So I ended up in jail. First time for everything. When I got out, my family disowned me.
Lynn had no place to go. Before getting a car, she was sleeping on the streets and in homeless shelters.
Lynn is one of the unsheltered individuals that lives out of her car. Many others have no choice but to stay on the streets. The San Diego Regional Task Force on the Homeless reports that San Diego has the 4th largest homeless population in the nation. The lack of affordable housing is one of the key factors driving the homelessness crisis in the region.
The car payment alone is $347. And even though I have...
Lynn receives monthly retirement and has a job as a caregiver that helps her pay for her car and expenses.
I have enough money, and what I have left over isn't even enough for anything.
Lynn has to use the bathroom at a nearby laundromat or grocery store, showers at a nearby gym, and has dinner 6 days a week at the Bread of Life shelter. This has been Lynn's routine for the past 5 years.
If you come here, I don't know, let's say every day for a month, you'll find many whole families that have just become homeless. So, I mean, homelessness here in Southern California happens a lot because we have such a housing shortage.
Michael, who has volunteered with Bread of Life for the past 8 years, has encountered numerous people living out of their cars, vans, or RVs.
There's also low class, middle class, and high class in the homeless. The low class are the ones who aren't going to get anywhere unless someone literally picks them up and puts them somewhere. Then there's the middle class who do a little bit of work here and there just to get by so they can at least eat. And then there's the upper class like me. I have a car, I have an income, I can take care of myself, and I have medical insurance.
In spite of her situation, Lynn remains hopeful.
I pray to him every day, talk to him every day, and I know he's helping me. In fact, he's helping me right now. I'm going to start crying. But I just want a place to live. I know I'm going to get there. I just have to be patient a little bit longer. That's something that I have to work on every day. Every day I have to tell myself, Lynn, just be patient. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it will.
If you would like to volunteer by either serving meals or donating your time, there are hundreds of organizations that help homeless individuals in your area.
You know, Tanya, that was super impactful to realize that there are a lot of people that don't have the luxury of living in a home. So how was the day with Lynn?
You know, it was really impactful to spend the day with her and follow her around and see what her routine is like. Little things that we don't think about, like where do you use the restroom, where do you sleep, where do you shower. So all those little things that I got to spend with her, even eating, you know, it really impacted me, and I definitely encourage the community to go out and volunteer and give back however you can.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thousands of students are in this country legally under DACA, but that all may change. Jomar has the story.
DACA students are worried. They may be forced to leave the United States, the only country they have ever called home. Many of these students arrived in the country as young children, and now our government wants to change the program.
I feel sadness.
Okay.
I feel hurt. I feel like what if they get taken, you know?
This is the raw truth of what dreamers, undocumented people, and supporters feel in the United States. These are their stories.
My name is Azucena. I was born in Toluca, Mexico, but I came here when I was about 4, and I was raised here in Anaheim, California. And to place dreamers on the back burner isn't a good thing, because a lot of them, like myself, we've come here at a very young age, you know? I came here when I was 4. I don't know anything. I didn't know anything when I was coming here. I couldn't place any, significance as to what I was doing.
Azucena Pedroza is a dreamer living in the United States. She attends UCI, where she is studying criminology. Aside from studying full-time, she is also a full-time manager at Metro by T-Mobile.
Hi, welcome to Metro by T-Mobile. How can I help you? Ni de aquí, ni de allá. We don't know where we belong.
Dreamers often use this phrase to describe their identity. Many believe they are not Mexican enough to be Mexican and not American enough to be American.
I was just riding in the back of a car. I was drugged, I was sleeping. I was with my sister and a couple of other kids, and we were just traveling behind in a van, and we're not cognizant, or a lot of us dreamers weren't cognizant of what we were doing.
Dreamers balance a busy life trying to get an education, help out with finances, and other family matters.
My name is Adilene Meraz, and I was born in Tijuana, Baja California.
Meraz works a part-time job as a noon yard supervisor and a part-time job at a local CVS. She also is a full-time student at Santa Ana Community College.
I don't have the luxury to fail, I actually have to push myself to succeed in this American society.
Dreamers are able to renew their visas but must pay a $495 renewal fee. Aside from fees they pay, dreamers also pay taxes, yet are not able to receive the benefits such as health insurance.
Can't stop thinking about the what if. What if one day they're just not here? I think they should have more attention. There should be more talking, more contributing to their cause.
On November 12, 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments regarding the Trump administration's decision to terminate the DACA program. The NILC says, quote, "We anticipate that the court will likely issue its decision close to the end of June 2020, but it could come as early as January 2020, and the exact timing is difficult to predict. So as of now,
we're living in the gray. That's what's happening to us."
I'm Jomar Jaramillo for OC News.
Put yourself in their shoes. Many of these young people feel caught in the middle and living in the shadows. All they can do now is wait.
Wow, Jomar, what a compelling story. What resources are available to Cal State Fullerton DACA students here?
So here in the library, we do have what is called the Titan Dreamer Resource Center, where they're going to have someone that they can talk to, which is the counselor. But on top of that, they do have workshops for legal help. Aside from that, any DACA recipient can also Google what resources are available for them, because they do vary by state. But there is a website called informedimmigrant.com where it does have a list of all the resources, from the grants that they can get, from the legal help, and so on and so forth. So if they really do need that help, it's just a Google search away.
That's awesome. Thank you. Still ahead, graduation. It's the goal for many of us college students, but graduation also comes with tremendous stress. And we go inside to a local brewery to find out what all the fuss is about, the perfect cold one.
Downtown Los Angeles has been undergoing a revitalization. The area is now home to many independent businesses and restaurants. I found an interesting business downtown that makes shoes. But when I dug deeper, I found that they are giving so much more to the community than just footwear. What do manufacturing jobs look like in the United States?
Maybe the stitch, because you have to know how the stitch in the machine is very nice stitching.
At Community Made Shoes in the Arts District of downtown Los Angeles, some manufacturing jobs look like this. Married owners Shannon and Sean Scott work for shoe giants like Nike, Asics, and Toms. Then they founded Community Made to make quality shoes with durable soles, and more importantly, to build community with soul.
Take local production, giving locally, really interacting with the community and building a true community. And that was pretty much it. Yeah, then the business was born. So that's really why we started this whole thing.
So they decided to build their business close to home. With every purchase, customers choose from a list of charities, and Community Made donates up to 20% of the purchase. But the Scotts say, money isn't the most valuable thing people can give.
I mean, people ask a lot of times, how do I get involved? Just show up, do something. Money's great. It makes these organizations function properly, but time is the most precious thing that we can give to anybody. And just acknowledging, that they need a hand up, and that's what we're here for, is just to spread that message.
In 2016, they discovered the rebirth of downtown Los Angeles.
I looked at Sean and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, like something is happening down here. And we had already been talking about the business, and I just said, this is kind of where it's going to be. And I think it felt immediately like home.
They always planned to look at other locations, but
we just never got around to it. Yeah, because we just love it here, and we still do. I mean, we love coming here every day, and we love the people here. And
it just feels like a great place to build something. It's home.
Downtown might be home, but it still has its problems. There are more people coping with homelessness than ever before. But the Scotts don't see the city's challenges as a deterrent.
I don't think we ever saw them as problems, but opportunities to help. And I know that's usually used in kind of a marketing doublespeak way. They're not problems, they're opportunities. But honestly, we just wanted to help in the community. That was our inspiration. We just wanted to help, and that's why. I mean, honestly, it's the reason we're doing it. It's the energy that I think that brings us here every day. And it's not just people in dire need. I mean, anybody that walks in the door. I mean, everybody has a need, and if we can help. I mean, that's a great opportunity, and if there are people right nearby,
can pick up, Israel.
Start thinking about Israel.
Yeah.
We live right by Skid Row. I mean,
the business.
I guess I say the business lives right by Skid Row. We meet a lot of these people, and we do what we can, and that's hard. A lot of them aren't ready for help, but one of them who was ready for help was a gentleman named Israel. He was with us for 2 years, and he had his struggles. Like anybody living on the street, he had his demons, but he was consistent in his work for us and his love for us, and that was clear, and we loved him back. He was part of this place, and I guess I used the past tense. So, we lost him. We lost him about a month ago. All we know is that in the 2 years that he was with us, he made our lives better.
Even though the emotional pain of losing Israel to throat cancer is still raw, the Scotts remain hopeful.
We're still waiting for our next Israel to show up because they're going to. We're going to be that much smarter. But yeah, you can't say, stop, throw your hands up, because if everybody did that, nothing's going to get done. And, we're still going to be doing it.
So the shoes and jobs created by Community Made are important, but they serve a bigger purpose, building a community. From the Arts District in Los Angeles, this is Doug DeVette for OC News.
Shannon told me there's a saying that you shouldn't try to boil the whole ocean, but you can boil a puddle. And the Scotts said that when lots of people do a little bit, that's how these big problems get solved, and that's how communities are made.
That's a very interesting perspective. How did you learn about Community Made?
I'm a big fan of the neighborhood. I like downtown Los Angeles a lot, but you can't spend time down there without becoming aware of the homeless problem. And I learned about Community Made on it was called Makers Walk LA, and businesses in the Arts District opened their doors and gave tours and explained what they were about, and that's when I met the Scotts. And they just made me feel so good and welcome that I wanted to go back and learn more.
That's great. Thank you so much. We turn now to college students and stress. Yep, just about all of us are stressed, at times while in school. But what about after graduation? Abehi has the story.
Post-graduation has risen amongst millennials over the past couple years. After receiving their diploma, the question of what's next can cause unforeseen trauma for a new graduate. Najati Burrows shares with us his experience with post-grad depression.
For many college students, graduation is the goal. Many have spent 17 years plus as a student, but what now? Most students suffer from depression right after they receive their diplomas. Cal State Fullerton alumni Najati Burrows loves everything about music. He worked part-time as a DJ while finishing his degree in civil engineering. He later landed a job as a student design trainee in San Francisco.
To me, it didn't make sense because if you were looking at it from the outside and, I had a job out of college that was paying a good amount, and I'm out of college, I should be ecstatic, but I didn't feel that way.
According to the Washington Post, the National Alliance of Mental Health found, quote, that 75% of mental health conditions begin by age 24, which means that both the college years and the abrupt transition when it's over can be a particularly challenging time emotionally, end quote.
Having to choose a job that is in an area that you may not be familiar with or is away from your family and friends, that's definitely a time that can be overwhelming for some people and can lead to depression because everything you've known, all your familial connections are no longer there in the same way they were before.
That was the struggle, because I went from, having classes, maybe 3 classes a day, maybe 1 to 2 hours, to having a 9 to 5. It wasn't even a 9 to 5. It was like a 2 to 5. And also at that time I was living in San Francisco. My mom had just moved to North Carolina, so she was gone. My dad was in Bakersfield. Friends were back down in Southern California. So I was basically on my own.
For Najati, the great job in San Francisco turned out to be too much. Being away from family and friends was difficult, so he quit his job and moved to North Carolina to be with his mom, then 2 years later landed another position in Orange County.
I think opening up to my parents and my friends were the first step, and having certain conversations was the first step.
Talking to friends and family helped, as well as trying new things, but it was really music that brought him back to feeling like himself again.
I would say probably just music. overall, music always takes me into a space where I'm either ignoring the feeling or listening to music that helps me understand the feeling of what's going on.
Assistant Dean Robert Flores also believes that self-care is a large part of the fight against post-grad depression.
I encourage students to be okay with seeking out professional help. There's nothing wrong with that, and I would encourage people to not think of it in a negative way, but to think of it as a way of practicing self-care, because we need that throughout our entire lifetime, not just through the hardships, but also through the things that we're successful in, right?
This is Abehia Borlor for OC News.
For all you graduates, don't be in a rush to get to your career. Make sure to take time to practice self-care.
What a fascinating story, Abehi. Where can students go to discuss their mental health issues such as depression, stress, etc. on campus?
I recommend going to the Student Wellness Center, where they have CAPS, the Counseling and Psychological Services Center. They can meet with different psychologists and counseling for individual cases, as well as group counseling and couples counseling as well.
Well, thank you so much, Abehi. Now we move on to Carson, who's going to talk a little bit about college stress. Carson?
Thanks, Rachel. Stress and anxiety amongst college students has been on a steady rise. I was able to get some answers as to why this is happening, as well as get a first-hand look on what it's like to be one of these students.
Over the past decade, there has been a steady rise of need for psychological services in college health centers. College is a time where people between the ages of 18 and 22 move out and start their own lives, but this comes with many hard times. A survey done by a group of students at West Coast University shared some interesting information about stress development in students.
We found in a survey that 60% of the students were depressed.
With around 150 students who took part in this survey, 60% admitted to being depressed due to the stressors in their lives. I was able to discuss with a student at Cal State Fullerton about how he may be part of that 60%. Shelton Miller is a third-year chemistry major at Cal State Fullerton. Not only is he one of the most difficult majors at CSUF, he also works a full-time job to support himself.
One is like not being able to study because of work. Like financial instability is definitely the biggest stressor for me.
With being a full-time student, Sheldon also works 6 days a week at Olive Garden. He explained to me that it is not the work that is difficult, it is the amount of time he has to spend there because it takes away from the time he could be studying.
It's Monday through Thursday and I have class from like 10 to 4, and then work like 5 to 11, so that's the biggest thing, time management.
Shelton also explains that he has fallen into several different habits that give him a temporary feeling of relief from his stress.
Nicotine, like vaping, it helps. Even just the few seconds of like release, just really stressed out, go to the bathroom and vape. The nicotine helps, calms me down. Weed, I smoke like every day to go to bed. Sometimes before work, it just makes the time go by faster.
Out of all the ways Shelton relieves his stress, he explains that the on-campus health center helps him in ways he did not know they could.
Something that helps me feel better that I'm really glad that Cal State Fullerton is able to provide is like the accessibility to people to talk to and resources to reach out to. Like the student health center, that really helps. I'm glad that they provide that to like all students. I know a bunch of people who've gotten help from them.
Dr. Schur, a psychology professor at CSUF, explained to me that exercise can be an extremely useful tool to manage stress and depression. She also explained to me that visiting adaa.org can give anyone the information that they need. My name is Carson Montano, signing off for OC News.
Make sure you're all checking in with your friends and loved ones. We all go through stressful times, so be kind to one another all the time.
That's a great perspective on how to relieve stress. There's a lot of great ways to relieve stress in times like these. What do you do in particular when you get stressed?
Yeah, you know, some things I do myself is either like I try to exercise as much as I can, which is what like a lot of people say works, or I just speak freely. I like to talk to a lot of people. I like to, you know, get my mind out there and have other people help me out in other ways by talking and just, yeah, I think that's just the easiest way for me to get through all my life struggles and stuff.
That's great. Thank you. Don't go away. After the break, California and cold beer. Why is California the capital of craft breweries?
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
It might be surprising, but us Californians love craft beer. Our state has more craft breweries than any in the entire country. So what's so special about beer?
Beer has a long tradition in American history. In 1842, the Pilsner was born, and it became the most popular beer of choice. In 1920, the Prohibition was put into law, but local breweries popularized like Pabst and Miller. And by 1930, the American Brewers Association was formed and is still going strong now. And now, here we are with 2,347 breweries and more and counting all over the nation. But the craft beers are stronger than ever, especially here in California, where the state is home to 1,000 craft breweries, the most than any state in the nation. What is it about the craft beer that has us wanting more and more? I got the chance to speak with Ian, who started home brewing and is now the head brewer at a new craft brewery in Huntington Beach called Red Beer Company.
At the same time, we want to have, we're constantly working on maintaining not only a statewide, but a nationwide reputation. Building that reputation. We want people to know that when they come down to Huntington Beach, we want them to find us first. So, Huntington Beach is a great place to visit and hang out and vacation with your family. We want them to know that we are here and be the top of their list for places to visit. Here at Red Beer Company, you're purchasing beer from us, from a family. You're supporting not only my family and my children, but the owner's families and the owner's children.
You can find Red Beer in multiple restaurants throughout Orange County, or you can just visit them and grab a beer to stay or to go for later.
It was so fun learning the ins and outs of one of my favorite beverages.
It's very interesting. I didn't know California had so many breweries. So did you find that there was a more popular type of beer?
I found out it was more generational. Us millennials, we really like craft beer, IPAs especially. And then the boomers, they really like their red ales, blonde ales, and things like that. So it differs.
Interesting. Well, that's going to do it for this special edition of OC News.
OC News will be back next semester to bring you news about Cal State Fullerton and the OC. See you then.
And good night.